Hey guys, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings NBA video for Friday, January 29th. What we decided to do today, since we're getting the same questions over and over about today's slate on Twitter, we decided to post a video answering those three questions that we've seen, more often than 2 or 3 times already today by various users and members who ask us for our advice. So I figured let's just post these 3 questions and talk about the 3 of them, which also is going to give us an idea of some of the guys who we want to play on the slate. So let's call up the slideshow and get into those questions. The 3 questions we're going to tackle here are Durant, Westbrook, and/or James Harden in that OKC Houston game. Is Archie Goodwin still a guy that's in play even with the price that is coming up? And do you want to avoid all these Timberwolves guys against the Utah Jazz team that has been really good defensively? The first question we're going to talk about is that Houston and OKC game. Now, you're going to need exposure to this game, whether it's in your cash or your tournament rosters. The total on this game is about 12 to 15 points higher than the total on any other game on the slate today. And with a game with a 223 total and, high pace, high scoring, the spread should stay close enough that all these guys get full run. We're going to need to have some of these guys on our roster. So of the 3 expensive guys there, I think Westbrook is probably my favorite at 10,800. I mean, this guy is a walking double-double, and the thing is he's almost a walking triple-double because whether it's 10 rebounds and 7 assists or 8 rebounds and 15 assists, he can get you double-doubles in multiple categories in multiple ways. He always scores over 20 points. He's been scoring a lot, and in a high-paced game that should be up and down like this, that plays right into his hands. So if I can only play one of these 3 guys today, I think it's going to be Russell Westbrook. My second favorite player is actually his teammate, Kevin Durant. Houston struggles against the forward position, definitely against wing players as well. So I think Durant is another guy who's in a really good spot here. Even though a lot of people like Trevor Ariza's defense, it really hasn't been all that great this year. So Durant's probably my second favorite option, making James Harden the third guy I would use. There are some other cheap options here, like Josh Smith, Trevor Ariza, and Serge Ibaka, who are 3 guys that I think are reasonably priced and would want some exposure to in this, high total game as well. It's easy to say, yeah, take Westbrook, Durant, and Harden. But if you take those 3 guys, you're left with about $19,000 to try to fill out 5 spots on your roster. And that means you're going to have 5 $3,000 punts along with 3 guys who could score somewhere between 50 and 75 points. The next guy we're going to talk about is Archie Goodwin. Now, his price has jumped up to $5,600. He's still the starting point guard with Brandon Knight out. And he's seen 30 minutes in his last 2 games, as opposed to like 38 and 40 minutes as he saw in the first 2. His team's also a 9-point underdog versus the Knicks, so it's not the greatest spot in the world. When you multiply it out, though, he needs about 28 points for 5x value to be cash game safe, and about 33 points for 6x value to be a guy that you can look at in tournaments. So far in his last 4 games, he's had 30, 38, 45, and 24. I still like him as a guy that can get you value and would probably use him in cash, but I think his upside is definitely capped here. I don't know if you're going to get a 7-8x game or a 9x game like we saw in some of his early games when his price was really cheap out of a guy like Archie Goodwin today. But I do still think he's a viable option. So if you're asking me, I think you can use him in cash. Tournaments, I think he's okay, but I wouldn't expect him to be the guy to get you 7, 8, 9 times value and really goes above and beyond to help you win a tournament. The last question we're going to answer, everyone keeps asking, are you still playing some of these Minnesota Timberwolves guys against the Utah Jazz? The Timberwolves have averaged 112 points per game over their last 3, so their offense is really taking a click up. But the Utah Jazz is one of the best defensive teams we have in the league, dating back to the second half of last season. They're finally healthy right now, and they've allowed under 85 points in their last 3 games on average. So they haven't given up a 100-point scorer in those last 3 games, 100 points to any team in those last 3 games as well. So it's really a question of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object in this one. To me, I think the guys that you want to play on the Timberwolves are price dependent. Karl Anthony Towns has been putting up 40 to 50 fantasy points lately, but I don't like the matchup. I don't want to pay $7,000 for him against Rudy Gobert, which is basically one of the toughest matchups you can get at the center position. I do like a guy like Zach LaVine, though, who's only 4,900. I think he's cheap. So the way I would answer this question is I think it's price dependent. I will still pay for a guy like Zach LaVine, who's 4,900, good value play, getting extra minutes. He's been absolutely on fire, like 8 or 9x his last 2 games, with Kevin Martin out scoring a lot of points. I would still pay for LaVine, but no, I'm probably not going to be paying up for Karl Anthony Towns, even though he's shown, some really good games in his last couple as well. I just think $7,000 is a little bit too much money to pay for a guy who's going up against one of the toughest matchups. So hopefully that answered the questions that a lot of you guys had today. I'm going to be coming back in a minute with our top fades video as well. So thanks for joining us here at rotocurve.com. And as always, stay classy, DFS.